20-year-old Jessica Foster disappeared on Monday morning. Her body was found Thursday afternoon, but the medical examiner estimated she had died of old age at approximately 80 years old. 3 days missing, 60 years of aging, and no explanation for how time itself had been weaponized. What I discovered about the aging murders would reveal a conspiracy that treated human life as nothing more than data points and experiments that accelerated death itself. I'm Detective James Carter, and after 12 cases that challenged every assumption about the possible, I thought I understood how science could be perverted into instruments of murder. But the case of the aging murders would show me that some killers don't just take lives. They steal the time itself from their victims' bodies. The call came from the medical examiner's office on a Thursday afternoon in March. Dr. Patricia Vance had encountered something in 20 years of forensic pathology that defied every medical principle she understood. "Detective Carter," she said when I arrived at the morgue, "I need you to see something that shouldn't be medically possible." Dr. Vance led me to examination room 3, where a body lay covered by a white sheet. When she pulled back the covering, I saw the corpse of an elderly woman who appeared to have died of natural causes related to advanced age. Dr. Vance, what makes this case unusual? This woman died of multiple organ failure, arterial disease, and cellular breakdown consistent with someone in their 80s. But according to the missing person report, Jessica Foster was 20 years old when she disappeared 3 days ago. She showed me photographs from Jessica's driver's license and social media accounts. The images showed a vibrant young woman with clear skin, bright eyes, and the physical characteristics of someone in their early 20s. Dr. Vance, could there be a mistake in identification? I've confirmed identity through dental records, DNA analysis, and a distinctive birthmark on the victim's left shoulder. This is definitely Jessica Foster, but her body has aged approximately 60 years since Monday. Is such rapid aging medically possible? There are rare genetic conditions that can cause accelerated aging, but they develop over years or decades. What happened to Jessica Foster represents aging that occurred in roughly 72 hours. I examined the body more closely. The woman on the examination table had gray hair, wrinkled skin, age spots, and all the physical characteristics of someone who had lived a full lifetime. But according to the timeline, she had aged 60 years in 3 days. Dr. Vance, what could cause such rapid cellular aging? Theoretically, exposure to extreme radiation, certain experimental drugs, or genetic manipulation could accelerate cellular breakdown. But nothing that would work this quickly without leaving other obvious signs of trauma. Are there any unusual substances in her system? Blood work shows traces of an unidentified compound that appears to be synthetic. I've never seen anything like it. I took samples of the unknown substance and photographs of Jessica's condition, then began investigating her disappearance to understand how someone could age 60 years in 3 days. Jessica Foster had been a college student studying biology at the university. She lived alone in a studio apartment near campus and worked part-time at a local research laboratory. Amanda Foster, Jessica's sister, told me Jessica had been participating in paid medical research studies to help cover her tuition costs. Amanda was a woman in her mid-20s who was clearly devastated by her sister's death and confused by the medical examiner's findings. Foster, what kind of medical research was Jessica involved in? Jessica said it was aging research, something about studying how cells break down over time. She was paid to provide blood samples and undergo some kind of monitoring. Do you know which research facility she was working with? The Longevity Research Institute downtown. Jessica said they were developing treatments to slow the aging process. Did Jessica mention any unusual procedures or treatments? About 2 weeks ago, Jessica said they had asked her to participate in a more intensive study that would require her to stay at the research facility for a few days. And she agreed? Jessica needed the money, and she said the researchers assured her the procedures were completely safe. Amanda's information suggested that Jessica had been participating in aging research that might have gone catastrophically wrong. I decided to investigate the Longevity Research Institute immediately. The Longevity Research Institute occupied a modern building in the medical district downtown. The facility specialized in studying the biological mechanisms of aging and developing treatments for age-related diseases. Dr. Elena Martinez, the institute's director, was a gerontologist who had spent her career studying cellular aging and life extension research. Dr. Martinez, I'm investigating the death of Jessica Foster, who was participating in research studies at your facility. Detective, Jessica's death has been devastating for our entire research team. We're still trying to understand what happened. What kind of research was Jessica involved in? Jessica was part of our cellular aging study. We were monitoring how her cells responded to various compounds that might slow the aging process. Dr. Martinez, Jessica appears to have aged 60 years in 3 days. Could your research have caused this? That level of rapid aging should be impossible with any compounds we were testing. What compounds were you testing? Various antioxidants, cellular repair enhancers, and synthetic compounds designed to slow cellular breakdown. Could any of these compounds have the opposite effect and accelerate aging? Dr. Martinez looked uncomfortable. Detective, all of our research compounds are thoroughly tested before human trials. That's not what I asked. Could they accelerate aging? Theoretically, if the compounds were modified or administered incorrectly, they could potentially cause cellular damage that might resemble accelerated aging. Dr. Martinez, I need to see all records related to Jessica's participation in your research. Detective, some of our research involves proprietary compounds and procedures that are protected by confidentiality agreements. This is a murder investigation. I can obtain warrants if necessary. Dr. Martinez reluctantly provided me with Jessica's research files. What I found suggested that the Longevity Research Institute had been conducting far more aggressive experiments than Dr. Martinez had initially indicated. According to the files, Jessica had been injected with experimental compounds designed to manipulate cellular aging mechanisms. The research notes indicated that some subjects had experienced unexpected cellular acceleration during the trials. Dr. Martinez, these files indicate that other research subjects have experienced rapid aging effects. Those were minor side effects that resolved within hours. Jessica's aging didn't resolve. She died of old age at 20 years old. Jessica's case was an unprecedented reaction that we're still trying to understand. How many other people have participated in these aging experiments? Over the past year, we've had approximately 50 volunteers participate in various studies. And how many experienced unexpected cellular acceleration? Dr. Martinez was quiet for a long time. 12 subjects experienced some degree of accelerated aging, but Jessica's case was by far the most severe. The Institute had been conducting dangerous experiments on human subjects that could cause rapid aging, and they had continued the research even after discovering these effects. Dr. Martinez, why didn't you halt the research after discovering that your compounds could cause accelerated aging? Because we also discovered that the compounds could potentially slow aging if administered correctly. The research had revolutionary implications for treating age-related diseases. Even if it meant risking the lives of your test subjects? We believed the potential benefits outweighed the risks, and we thought we had developed safer protocols. I decided to investigate Professor David Lee, who according to the research files had been developing the aging manipulation compounds. Professor Lee was a geneticist in his 60s who specialized in cellular biology and age-related genetic research. His laboratory was filled with sophisticated equipment for studying DNA, cellular structures, and biological aging processes. Professor Lee, I'm investigating the death of Jessica Foster, who was participating in aging research using compounds you developed. Detective, Jessica's death was a tragic accident that resulted from an unexpected reaction to our experimental treatments. Professor, your compounds caused a 20-year-old woman to age 60 years in 3 days. That's not an accident, it's a weapon. Our research is designed to understand and control the aging process for medical purposes. But you've created compounds that can kill people by forcing them to age rapidly. Professor Lee looked defensive. Detective, all medical research involves risks. The potential to cure aging-related diseases justifies carefully controlled experimentation. Professor Lee, did you know that your compounds could cause fatal rapid aging? We knew there were risks, but we believed the protocols we developed would prevent severe reactions. Yet 12 people experienced accelerated aging effects. Minor effects that we were studying to improve our protocols. Jessica Foster's effects weren't minor. She's dead. Professor Lee was quiet for several minutes. Detective, Jessica's case was unusual because she had been exposed to higher concentrations of the aging compounds than our normal protocols called for. Why was Jessica given higher concentrations? Because she volunteered for an experimental procedure that was designed to test the maximum safe dosage. Professor Lee, did Jessica fully understand that she was risking rapid aging and potentially death? We explained the general risks, but we couldn't predict the specific severity of her reaction. Professor Lee's explanation revealed that Jessica had been deliberately exposed to dangerously high concentrations of aging compounds as part of an experimental procedure to determine maximum safe dosages. Professor, who authorized the high-dosage experiment? Dr. Martinez and I jointly decided that testing maximum dosages was necessary to establish safety parameters for future research. So you used Jessica as a test subject to see how much aging compound a human body could withstand before dying? We were establishing medical protocols for potentially life-saving research. Professor Lee, where are the other subjects who received high-dosage treatments? Jessica was the first subject to receive the maximum concentration protocol. So you had no data on safety or effectiveness when you decided to use Jessica as a test subject? Professor Lee's admission revealed that Jessica Foster had been subjected to an untested experimental procedure that the researchers knew could cause rapid aging and death. When I confronted Dr. Martinez with Professor Lee's admissions, she finally revealed the full scope of their research. Detective Carter, our aging research had reached a point where we needed to understand the absolute limits of cellular aging manipulation. And you decided to use Jessica Foster to test those limits? Jessica volunteered for the advanced research protocol and was compensated accordingly. Dr. Martinez, did Jessica know she was risking death from rapid aging? We explained that the advanced protocol involved higher risks, but we believed our safety measures would prevent severe reactions. Your safety measures failed. Jessica aged 60 years in 3 days and died. Her death was a tragic outcome that we never intended. Dr. Martinez, how many other people are you planning to kill with your aging experiments? We've suspended all research pending investigation of Jessica's case. The investigation revealed that the Longevity Research Institute had been conducting illegal human experiments using compounds that could rapidly age people to death. Jessica Foster had been deliberately exposed to a lethal concentration of aging compounds to test the limits of human tolerance. Dr. Elena Martinez and Professor David Lee were charged with murder, conducting illegal human experiments, and medical malpractice. The Longevity Research Institute was shut down and its research confiscated by federal authorities. But the most disturbing aspect of the case was that the researchers had continued their experiments even after discovering that their compounds could cause fatal rapid aging. Detective Carter, said Amanda Foster when the case was concluded, my sister died because she trusted scientists who saw her as a disposable test subject. Amanda, your sister's death will prevent other people from being victimized by this research. But Jessica will never get back the 60 years of life that were stolen from her in 3 days. The aging murders case taught me that some forms of murder involve stealing not just life but time itself. Jessica Foster had been robbed of decades of experiences, relationships, and opportunities when researchers forced her body to age 60 years in 72 hours. But the case also highlighted the dangers of unregulated medical research conducted by individuals who prioritize scientific discovery over human welfare. Detective, said the prosecutor handling the case, this represents a new category of murder where the weapon is time acceleration rather than traditional violence. How will you proceed with prosecution? We're treating it as murder through experimental medical procedures, but the legal precedent for prosecuting time-based murder is unprecedented. Every case tells a story, and the story of the aging murders was about the fundamental value of human time and the responsibility of researchers to protect the people who trust them with their lives. Jessica Foster had volunteered for medical research hoping to help advance scientific knowledge and earn money for her education. Instead, she had been murdered by scientists who were willing to steal decades of her life to test the limits of their deadly aging compounds. The aging research had been stopped, but Jessica's stolen time could never be returned. She had been 20 years old with a full life ahead of her, and in 3 days she had been aged to death by people who claimed to be working to extend human lifespan. In the end, the most tragic irony of the case was that researchers studying life extension had used their knowledge to create the ultimate weapon against life itself, the ability to steal time directly from the human body until there was no time left at all. Case closed. One young life aged to death in the name of science. And a new understanding that in an age of advanced medical research, even time itself could be weaponized against innocent people who trusted in the promise of scientific progress. The aging murders had been solved, but they left behind a fundamental question. If science can control the rate at which we age, who decides how much time each human life is worth?